What's good, y'all? It's your boy Black G92. Back at it with these reactions. I might do a second one after I record this one. It all depends how I'm feeling, of course. So this is another Wrestle with Andy documentary titled WWE Originals Wrestling's Homegrown Stars. I'm gonna see what's looking like in about 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Many of the best wrestlers in the world are so great because they've spent years honing their craft all around the world.
Yep.
Just look at someone like Chris Jericho or
Chris
AJ
Jericho.
Styles if you want any evidence of this. That said, you don't always have to rack up the frequent flyer miles if you want to be a success, as on occasion, people have managed to do this by staying just under one roof. Yes, the WWE Performance Center has proved to work wonders for this generation of talent. But who are the greatest examples of them all? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. So join us as we take a deep dive into homegrown wrestlers who have only worked for WWE.
Let's see.
And as always, if we're going to start anywhere, let's do so with one of the most prominent cases, because as arguably the top female in the entire company, Bianca Belair is a prime example of a homegrown star. Yes, for this Knoxville native, the very fact that she was a star track and field athlete in college meant Vince McMahon was always going to be interested in acquiring her services once she graduated.
I bet.
After all, the boss has always been a fan of bringing in skilled people from other sports, as he feels it makes it easier to mold them into what he wants in the ring.
That's true.
And mold Bianca into a superstar he most certainly has.
She got some muscles.
Days on the NXT roster. Right up until her recent run as Raw Women's Champion, confusingly on SmackDown, she's shown herself to be a rare talent and someone who no doubt has a long and bright future ahead of her. Seriously,
I could
outside
never
of
see
Becky
that.
Lynch and maybe Rhea Ripley, you could argue she's the most over woman in the entire company right now. And given how much of her success has been tied directly to her time with WWE, it doesn't seem likely she'll want to throw away that relationship anytime soon. No, we fully expect Belair will remain where she is for a long time to come, and in the process of this, she'll no doubt win many more accolades. Hell, at this
I could
rate,
definitely see that.
wouldn't even be surprised to see her make history by becoming the first woman to main event WrestleMania on 2 separate occasions. Honestly, there's no end to what she can achieve if she sets her mind to it, but then what else would you expect with someone who already had the mentality of a star athlete prior to ever joining WWE? And Bianca isn't the only female on the WWE roster who managed to get their initial opportunity by first excelling in sports. No, as it happens, our next entry was also a world-class athlete before entering WWE. Who is this? None other than
Charlotte Flair.
Charlotte Flair.
Damn, she like her daddy.
14-time world champion and daughter of the legendary Nature Boy Ric Flair, there was no way Ashley Fleer was ever going to fail once she had decided to take up pro wrestling. That said, it wasn't her first choice as it happened. No, during her early days, she had her sights set on becoming a volleyball player. Once her brother Reed tragically died in the early 2010s, though, she made the decision to pick up the baton he left behind and carry on the family name in the ring. And it's just as well she did this because alongside the likes of Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Paige, Charlotte was able to reinvent what women's wrestling could be in New York.
Ooh, that looks painful.
But what made her efforts stand out all the more is that unlike the other 4, she did it all without ever having to work for another company. No, from day one, Flair has always been a WWE woman. And perhaps this is why her boss has trusted her enough to pretty much make her the face of the division for the better part of the last decade. Sure, we could argue about who the biggest star ultimately is between her and Becky Lynch until the cows come home, but at the end of the day, only one of these women have the sheer quantity of title reigns the Queen has. And that's because, no matter what, Vince McMahon can always be assured if he gives her the ball to run with, she'll do so with ease. Of course, Charlotte isn't the only woman with a famous family who found this helpful in getting her foot in the door with WWE early on. And that's because, as the niece of The Rock, Nia Jax has had this in her blood for her entire life. Yes, she's long been accused of...
Now I have to check out some of Nia Jax documentary, because I'm actually interested. I had no idea she was like related to The Rock till, I think it was like one of those other Wrestle with Andy documentaries. So I'm about to check out some of her matches and such. And of course, Charlotte Flair, see more of her matches once they won't get copywritten. And more so copyright stricken, or let's say get a claim on it.
A bad habit of injuring others in the ring, and she's not exactly the most dynamic wrestler in the world, but during her time as part of the roster between 2014 and 2021, Jax
she's a
served
big
key
old
role
girl
as the resident powerhouse of either the SmackDown or Raw women's division. And this was a role she didn't have to develop elsewhere as it happened, because following her first ever match in NXT during the former year, she stayed in the black and gold brand all the way up until her main roster debut in July of 2016. Then once there, the Honolulu native took full advantage of the new spotlight which was shining down on her, as over the course of the next few years, she went on to become a one-time Raw Women's Champion and a two-time Women's Tag Team Champion with Shayna
impressive.
Baszler.
Okay.
So needless to say, this created a serious loyalty to the brand within her, a loyalty so deep that even when she was released from her contract in 2021, Nia chose not to go work elsewhere. No, since that date, in fact, her only other appearance in the ring has been a cameo one-shot at the 2023 Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Does this mean the doors are open to her working with her first home once more? Probably. After all, with Dwayne Johnson serving as a character reference, it's hard to imagine she won't return at some point down the line. But what about another relative of The Rock, that Roman Reigns? He's a prime example of how you can never leave home and still rule the world at the end of the day. Of course, there is a slight caveat here, as the Tribal Chief technically started out his career in a different place, Florida Championship Wrestling. But given that this was firmly a WWE developmental territory in 2010, we're going to say it counts for the purposes of this video. And with that in mind then, it's hard to argue that Reigns isn't among the most successful homegrown products Vince McMahon has ever created. Sure, it took him a while to get over with fans, but the potential was always there. In fact, it was clear as far back as his early developmental run, where he played the role of Roman Liaki down in the Sunshine State. Hell, in many ways, this suit-and-tie-clad villain almost served as the inspiration for what would later come with his current head of the table gimmick. So in that sense, you could argue it's actually been a benefit to Roman that he's always stayed with WWE, as it's meant he's been able to draw on all of his history there and integrate into who he is now without worry of copyright infringement claims coming his way.
Hey, good stuff,
On top of that, his commitment to remaining in one place has meant that the boss has been able to trust him a lot easier. So when he was looking for a new face of his company in the mid-2010s then, he was able to give that mantle to Reigns and not have to worry about him up and splitting whenever he got a better offer from someone else. Sure, like with any major name, the big dog has dipped his toe into the world of movies as of late, a feat which has been made more available to him due to the fact that his cousin is the biggest movie star in the world. But that doesn't mean he's left his first home behind. No, he'll likely stay there for as long as the company needs him to, even if it's only in a part-time capacity, constantly helping to push things forwards whenever he's on screen. Yes, sometimes it pays for both the performer and the company to have a job with the same place for your entire career, as it creates a loyalty on both sides. And in this case, it's most certainly paid off for the fans in a big way, because without Reigns having the full trust of management, we'd likely have never gotten storylines like the Bloodline saga. But what about another former world champion that's part of
I wonder what's going on with this whole buffering thing. It's just kind of solely just, it's stopping and it's playing the scene out, whatever. I don't know what's going on, but I was trying to sit through and see if it gets normal again.
Great faction. Who are we talking about here? Big E, of course. Yes, Big E.
Oh, great. Another commercial. It's going to make the video much longer, and I'm going to have to split this in two parts, unfortunately. Alright, shut up. I don't want to see this shit. I want to get back to the video.
Yes, Big E, one of the most beloved performers in all of wrestling, actually started out as a powerlifter. And while doing
I
this,
could definitely
he was able
tell.
to create such a reputation for himself
This
that
a
once
big
an
old
unfortunate
nigga.
injury ended that career, he already had an in with WWE in the form of Jim Ross. So that's what led to him joining NXT in August of 2012 then, a place where he quickly established himself as a future star in waiting. Of course, it wasn't always a slam dunk that this would happen, however, as plenty of other prospects of the same era never managed to break out on account of them lacking the charisma needed to succeed under Vince McMahon's watch. Luckily though, if there's one thing you can say about Ettore Ewin, it's that he has charm to burn. Or, not only is he an intensely engaging and likable guy, but he's also a pretty great wrestler too. Well, so good was he even early on, he'd at one point become the NXT World Champion. And once that reign ended and he moved up to the main roster, he'd create even more magic moments for himself by becoming a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, 8-time Tag Team Champion, 1-time Mr. Money in the Bank, and 1-time WWE Champion as well.
Dang, he just getting all those trophies and awards.
Well, Big E was a member of the New Day, so he's always had the luxury of friends standing in his corner at these times. but it doesn't mean that he hasn't earned such awards on his own merits. Hell, if anything, he's had a harder path towards winning over fans' hearts, because if the Yes Movement and the subsequent rejection of Roman Reigns taught us anything, it's that fans generally like to see someone make it outside of WWE first. And as it happened, it's this exact attitude which has made it particularly difficult for our next subject to get cheered by live crowds. But why should his case be any different than Big E's? Well, because unlike the Florida native, Baron Corbin is just too much of a natural heel. That's right, it's unlikely you're ever going to see a huge push for the former Constable of Raw to be a good guy. Not that this should bother him, though, because with Corbin apparently having been a favorite of Vince McMahon for quite a while, he'll no doubt have a job in the company for as long as he wants. But when did his run start exactly? Well, it wasn't actually that long ago, because prior to joining NXT in 2012, Thomas Pestock was actually making a name for himself as an offensive guard for the Indianapolis Colts.
Okay.
And as it happened, it was while there that he actually became a roommate and close friend of fellow current WWE employee Pat McAfee. Of course, once he closed the book on his time on the gridiron and reported over to the Performance Center then, noted wrestling superfan McAfee was watching on from the sidelines with glee. But he had every reason to be excited for his friend, as it turned out, because there, using the fact that he was a homegrown WWE original to gain heat with the rabid Full Sail University audience, Corbin was able to turn himself into one of the biggest heels on the roster when he began setting his sights on what he thought were the indie nobodies taking up all of his TV time. Yes, it was an effective gimmick, and one which caught the eye of the boss so much that just a year later, the Lone Wolf would be moved up to the main roster, where his run of success only continued, as at various points he became King of the Ring, Mr. Money in the Bank, and a one-time United States champion.
Okay,
Sure, he's
impressive.
still yet to win the big one, but given the fact he appears happy to spend his entire career in New York, we imagine he'll have more than enough opportunities to do so as the years go on.
I'm sure he will.
Who knows? If and when he reaches that level, maybe he'll finally be able to get fans on his side. Though we wouldn't necessarily hold our breath for that if we're being honest. No, it's more likely Baron Corbin is a better fit for being a career heel. After all, some people just are. And on the flip side of that equation, there are people who are equally as adept at being perennial babyfaces too, such as the next product of the WWE system we're going to be looking at today, Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan.
Sure, her
I've heard that
Riot
name.
Squad stablemates Ruby Soho and Sarah Logan may have first needed a spell on the indies to get WWE interested in them, but that was never going to be the case for the New Jersey native. No, with her pop-punk look and happy-go-lucky attitude, she was clearly everything Vince McMahon wanted in a female star in 2014, which is exactly why he signed her up to a developmental contract pretty much straight out of school at this point.
Okay.
And it's just
Very
as well
quick
he did, because
ascension to
since
fame.
then, Liv has proven herself to be one of the star attractions of the company's women's division. Hell, so much of a groundswell of fan support has she gotten at various points. In 2022, she even became SmackDown Women's Champion for a while. So for that reason then, we don't imagine she has any plans to go seek work elsewhere anytime soon, even if at least one of her buddies now works for the competition. No, it's far more likely she'll remain in New York for the long haul, continuing to add more accolades to her resume with each passing month. And with her still only being 28 years old, the reality of the situation is that the long haul for her is going to carry on for quite a while yet, meaning she may end up being one of the all-time greats of the division by the time she's done. Of course, this is a bold statement to make when that division also includes figures such as Asuka, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. But it wouldn't be unheard of for someone from the tier below them to reach up higher and get to the top through sheer tyranny of will. After all, it already happened with Carmella when she won the SmackDown Women's title herself in 2018. That said, what made the Staten Island Princess's rise all the more impressive was that, despite coming from a wrestling family by way of her father, Paul Van Dal, when Carmella made her debut inside of a wrestling ring as part of NXT in 2013, it was primarily as a manager. Sure, she did put on her ring boots from time to time and get into the thick of it herself, but for the most part, she'd be happy to stand by the side of Enzo Amore and Big Cass and cheer them on as they took over the tag team division. So that was why, once she was called up to the main roster 3 years later, it was expected she'd play a similar role, something a lot more closer to a modern-day incarnation of Sunny than Alundra Blaze. Except Leah Van Dale never had any intentions of becoming a one-note figure.
That's a good little submission.
She wanted to be a champion in her own right, and this meant pretty early on during her
She
run
got
on
strong
SmackDown,
legs.
she'd be fighting to establish herself as a solo act and someone who was always ready to get down no matter who her opponent was. Would this pay off for her? Well, yes. Because aside from winning the SmackDown Women's title, as we've already mentioned, she'd also become the inaugural winner of the Women's Money in the Bank briefcase that same year. Recently, however, Carmella has taken a temporary hiatus from the ring on account of her and real-life husband Corey Graves waiting on the arrival of their first child. And once she gets back into the ring, we've no doubt she'll return stronger than ever.
I'm sure she will.
No doubt she'll remain a part of the WWE system for a long time to come yet. What reason does she have to go anywhere else at this point, though? After all, she gets to work with both her husband Corey and her best friend Bayley, and she also gets plenty of TV time to boot. Hell, maybe by the time she's ready to come back, another currently absent star will be there once more in order to feud with her too. Who are we talking about this time? Why, who else but another shining star of the WWE Performance Center, Alexa Bliss.
Oh, I haven't heard that name in a while. Alexa Bliss. And I gotta wait through another commercial.
You're a hardworking adult ready for a comeback.
Yeah. Shut the hell up. I don't want to hear all that shit.
And nothing can stop
I done finished watching this video.
Earn a degree you'll be proud of, and employers will respect.
See, I should have split this into 2 parts. But I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and just knock this out. But gotta deal with this bullshit ass commercials.
Then this is for you. We've changed over 50,000 filmmakers' lives with the Ultimate Bundle.
Yeah, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear all that right now. It's interesting, but I don't want to hear about it right now.
Yes, well, it might have felt like she's been part of the system forever at this point. The goddess has actually only been under the WWE umbrella since 2013, at which point she undertook her first baby steps as an in-ring performer while being a part of the NXT brand. We guess the reason it probably seems like longer than that is because since then, she's achieved so much. In fact, after joining the main roster in 2016, she's gone on to become a 5-time world champion, 3-time tag team champion, and 1-time Miss Money in the Bank. More so than that, though, she's routinely been one of the best talkers in the company, something which is evident anytime she's given a live mic. And this is likely
I'm gonna have to check those speeches out.
Shine to her so early on, with his style always being more about pushing characters than anything else. Alexa fit right in perfectly. Really, if there was anyone who felt like they were designed in a lab to be a modern-day WWE women's star, it's Alexa. Hell, iconic pop-punk band Bowling for Soup even wrote a song about her in 2020, giving you just a little bit of an indication of the crossover potential she has. So with the machine of WWE offering her the perfect chance to continue to grow her brand, and the boss continuing to be all in on her, we don't expect her workplace situation will be changing anytime soon. No, she's still only just scratched the surface of what she's capable of, to be honest, because while her bratty mean girl gimmick will always get over with fans, her recent work as the Harley Quinn-esque herald of the Fiend has given her a chance to stretch her acting abilities even more. And sure, this character did receive mixed reactions overall.
I bet.
That said, the one thing which can't be denied about it is that Bliss gave it her all in the role, suggesting she has a desire within her to keep reinventing herself and pushing herself to be better. But then working with the former Bayou cult leader is likely to have such an effect on someone, as he's well known for being one of the best creative minds in the wrestling industry. And that's what makes it even more shocking when you consider the fact that throughout his entire career, Bray Wyatt has never worked anywhere outside of the halls of WWE. Seriously, since starting his in-ring career in 2009 as part of the Florida Championship Wrestling roster, the only home the son of Mike Rotunda has ever known has been the one he currently stays at now. Of course, with him being someone who's always focused on character and spectacle above all, we guess this really shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Yes, while his cinematic approach to wrestling might work in the great halls of New York, it would probably seem a little jarring in other companies such as New Japan Pro Wrestling or even AEW. So for that reason, he's lucky he found the right landing spot so early on, as after spending 5 years in developmental forging a suitable character for himself, Bray was able to make a big splash in 2014 when he debuted the Eater of Worlds and his Wyatt family cronies to main roster fans. Unfortunately, though, for as great as this gimmick was, it couldn't withstand the terrors of Vince McMahon's booking. And that's why it's equally as lucky that Bray was such a creative guy then, because following the cult leader's slide into jobberdom, the Florida native was able to reinvent himself again into an arguably even better creation, one which would become known as The Fiend.
Oh, The
And
Fiend.
this one too,
Definitely a great look
simply
from him.
retreated for a while in order to come up with a third character, that of Uncle Howdy. Of course, with him being sidelined right now on account of an unspecified illness, it's unclear where this character will take him in the future. One thing we can be sure of, though, is that whatever happens, we can expect he'll be around in WWE for a while yet, as all the creative battles aside, it still feels like the place most fitting for a man of his talents. But to be honest, we could say the same about everyone we've discussed today, because given the success we've seen each of them have over the years, it's just too hard to imagine them working anywhere else other than the Fed.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, what's his name? Andy definitely has a point. Like, you probably can't. I definitely can't see him working anywhere else aside from WWE, because if they've been at that company for X amount of years, why change it up now? And plus, it seems like Vic McMahon's treating him well, and sure they're getting paid quite well as well. Let's see what the people say in the comment section. I wish I could say the same for my job, but it's been. You know what? I ain't gonna get into it. It's kind of too personal. And this ain't the video for that. I might make a separate video about that. Bianca's one of the WWE's biggest success stories for someone who never knew about WWE. Another person comes to mind since he's been working for so long in WWE, The Miz. So far, I've never seen him in other wrestling shows at the WWE. Okay, got a lot of good comments in here. I dig it. So let me know in the comment section you want me to react to more of these Wrestle with Andy videos, documentaries, or anything else you have in mind, music videos, countdowns, interviews from famous people you could think of. Post them in the comment section as well. And also hit that like button, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button as well. And also be sure to hit me up on the social media accounts, which will be posted in the description box below, to follow me for see all my opinions and takes on everything that's related to just the world and like this pop culture and everything else. Just follow me on social media accounts. I'm active on there, and I will answer to DMs as quick as I can. Gotta double back and just check back in some old reaction requests, as well as a few other collaborations I'm supposed to be doing as well. Get back to that, as well as amongst other things. So this is your boy Black G92, about to sign off. Holla at your boy. Peace.